This is a glass that's part of a set of 1 of 6, and there are only 5 left because 1 is broken, and it is from my grandmother's house. And when she died, I was packing up all of her stuff to give to Goodwill, and I saw the 6 glasses and I immediately was drawn to them, so I kept them. Well, when we were little, she would actually not let us drink out of them because she was afraid we would break them or something. So I never got to drink out of them ever until I brought them home with me. And maybe she was right because I broke one, so maybe she was right to never let me drink out of them. Well, I don't have any children. I don't plan on having any children. So probably if they survive my clumsiness, maybe my niece would like them for the future. Or maybe somebody will find them in a thrift store in 50, 60 years from now and say, oh, these are very cool glasses, depending on how I'm taken care of.
It is it's my great-great-grandmother's engagement ring. After my grandmother passed away, actually it's kind of a weird story because my aunt was supposed to get all the jewelry, but a little bit before my grandmother passed away, we were talking and I said something about how when I get married I want to have a platinum ring, and she said, oh, well, you should see this ring. It's your great-great-grandmother's engagement ring. And she showed it to me, and it was, very beautiful and obviously very old. And so when she did pass away, I asked my aunt if I could keep the ring, and she has the wedding ring. So we broke up the set. I think that it makes me feel closer to that side of the family. I was much closer to my dad's side of the family, and I'd always thought that my grandmother was really, my mom's mom was really kind of harsh and cheapskate, and she's one of these people who grew up in the Depression, and still she had very strong views about money and saving it and not spending it, and I don't think I appreciated her. And then after she died, it was her funeral, her memorial service, and everybody was like, from her church was talking about what an activist she was and all the cool things she'd done, and she never told us any of this. So it kind of turned out that she was kind of this amazing woman that I never appreciated because I didn't know who she was. And so I think having that ring kind of makes me feel closer to her in a way, because I wasn't when she was alive. And the funny thing is, all the things that I really criticized her for when I was a kid, I think I've acquired. She was one of these people who made plans for everything, like down to who would be doing what. And these planning skills are things that I totally use in my research and in being a control freak in my life as a kind of theme. So the ring is kind of symbolizes, I guess, how really I both misjudge somebody, and then also that I probably, am more close to them than I thought.
It's a purple ceramic egg. This is stuff I often don't talk about very publicly, which really makes it sound like a drug deal, but it's not. Around 2005, a friend of mine bought a whole bunch of these little ceramic eggs. Each egg was going to represent one friend. Each egg was going to belong to a friend. Someone has a blue egg, someone gets a yellow egg, someone gets a pink egg. And she did this as part of, well, frankly, a spell. She, like a lot of my friends, practiced something like paganism. Part of it is about the memory of becoming close to this group of people who are now my closest friends in the world. So because this egg is this terribly important personal symbol, I brought it with me on my field work to Egypt. And I was there between 2010 and 2012. which means that I was there for the uprising in 2011. And like I was really there for the uprising. I lived like 4 blocks from Tahrir Square, and like I lived in front of the Interior Ministry, which sounds totally harmless, but that's actually where the secret police are. And like I was basically trapped in my apartment, like getting tear gassed. And I was like, fuck it. The U.S. Embassy's like offering to fly me out of here. I will take that deal. And I had to pack up a suitcase. I had no clue if I would be able to come back to Egypt anytime soon. Maybe the country would descend into horrible chaos. Like, my apartment might get looted, my apartment might get taken from me, my landlord might take my stuff. Who can say? So like, I had to fill the suitcase of the things the things in my life I actually cared about, and I had to make so I've had the experience of, what objects matter, what objects don't. I wrapped it in like, my finest towel, because I didn't have a lot else to cushion it. And abandoned my apartment with it, and flew off to Turkey. And as it turns out, got all my stuff back eventually. I'm pretty sure if I had to save one object, it would have been this. Or I'm pretty sure if I had to save one non-clothing object, it would have been this. Hopefully by the time I'm old and thinking about death, if I haven't successfully been uploaded to the machines, I will feel that I am no longer an egg waiting to hatch. Hopefully I will have hatched by then. So I think I'd like to give it to someone I'm very close to, or someone I really care about who's still figuring themselves out.
So my object is this bracelet that I got from my grandmother. It's made up of coins that my grandfather sent to her when he was stationed in the South Pacific during World War II. So there are coins from Australia and India, something from India. He went all over. I think I was around 12 years old when she gave it to me. I was her only granddaughter, and so she didn't have a lot of stuff that she really kept as she got older, but a couple of pieces, this and a charm bracelet, for instance, that my dad had given to her over the years. Those types of things I got since I was the only girl to give those things to. But my grandparents' relationship was really, unique. It was really special. They got married right before World War II started, and he shipped out, and that was pretty typical of that era. But they were incredibly devoted to each other. They were best friends. And he got sick when I was just 4 years old. He got Parkinson's disease, and he had to be put in a nursing home. And he died a couple of years after that, and my grandma was just devastated. And she lived for 30 more years, but she never changed their phone book entry. They were always listed as Clyde and Gladys Withrow on all the correspondence. I mean, she was really, she was as devoted to him as he had been to her. It would make a nice cat collar. It would make a nice cat collar.
Okay, my most cherished possession is a stuffed dog named Floppy. And I've owned Floppy since I was 1 day old. He's the first thing I ever had. And he was a gift on the occasion of my birth. He reminds me of my childhood. I associate some of my earliest memories and some really beautiful memories to Floppy. I remember being around 3 years old and carrying him around. When I think of, so this is funny, there was a day when I was around 4. For 1 day, I changed his name. And changed his name to Flashlight for 1 day. But I felt terribly guilty. I felt really guilty. And I remember that feeling of it was really the first time that I remember feeling guilt. And it weighed heavy on me because I had this sense of, who am I to rename this this being, this thing? It has a name, it's Floppy. You can't do that. And I remember talking to my mother about it at the end of the day. I'm like, I think I made a mistake. I think this isn't right. So he went back to Floppy, and he's been Floppy ever since. So we had a little business, a bakery, a pretzel bakery on the boardwalk in Wildwood, New Jersey. And next door was a marionette theater. And one of the boys, he must have been around 16, there was a gypsy family that ran the marionette theater. So this boy invited me to the back of the theater, and it was pouring rain. And I have this image, this memory of sitting next to him while he turned Floppy into a marionette. And put strings on Floppy and strung him up and put the wooden handle on it, and then showed me how to use it. So Floppy was a marionette for one summer. This is the summer of 1961. And they used me. The gypsy kid had a big marionette bear, and I had little Floppy. And we would go out on the boardwalk, and it was the summer that the Twist was #1. Chubby Checkers, the Twist. So the Twist would play, and we would dance the marionettes on the boardwalk, and a big crowd would come, and then we would draw them into the marionette theater to see the show. So I was a boardwalk shill, along with Floppy. There was some damage, so these are stitches that my grandmother put in. And I remember, so 2 of the memories I have of Floppy have to do with a needle and thread. Once he was being converted into a marionette, and then another time my grandmother was just fixing him up. So there's some stitching around here that my grandmother did, and then the rest is just worn, you know, wear and tear. Maybe I'll have grandchildren, and I'll give it to a grandchild. You know, Hannah had them for those 5 years, so I might want to give it back to Hannah. This is something I'll have to think about. And when Hannah had them, let me show you this. Hannah was in a knitting phase for a while, and she made a it says Hannah. I don't know why it should say Floppy, but it says Hannah. So she made a little vest for him, and I don't want to hurt his head, but you know, it fits. So yeah, you know, maybe Hannah would get him, but I'd want to, you know, reserve that for a while. I don't sleep with him anymore. You know, those days are gone. But he lives on my bureau, and he's been a presence in my life, like, for this entire time.
This would be my grandmother's silver geisha cigarette holder and lighter. This is from the late 40s, early 50s. I don't know how she got it, actually. She worked in General MacArthur's headquarters in Tokyo, and after she died, she left my dad all of these possessions from Japan and a scrapbook, photos and everything, but she died when I was about 3, so I never heard any of this stuff firsthand, and so I'm not sure exactly how she got this. I'm assuming maybe it's just like a souvenir from when she was there, but ironically she died of lung cancer. So this is the cigarette case. Ooh. There's a geisha on it here. Let's see. Hold on. So my grandmother, while she was in Tokyo, was also a stand-in for the actress Betty Grable, and the movie was called Call Me Mister, and it took place in post-World War II Japan. And because it was still somewhat dangerous over there at the time, they didn't want to have the actors come over, so for the wide shots in Japan, my grandma was the stand-in for her. Well, since I don't really remember, I actually don't have any memories of a grandmother except for her being in a hospital bed in my dad's house when I was younger. That's where she died. This is just like this possession, and then the other possessions that I have of hers and her photos just kind of gives me something to connect to her since I don't really have memories of her. So, I would definitely pass it on to a kid if I had one.